Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to solve a polynomial. In fact, this is a cubic, but we're going to get it down to a quadratic because that's the goal with all polynomials, and then use the different skills to solve a quadratic. So the first thing I want to look for is there a greatest common factor between 6x cubed, 21x squared, and 9x? In fact, there is. There's a 3 in each term, and there's also an x, so I can factor that out. So I'm going to take my greatest common factor of 3x out, and when I divide 6x cubed by 3x, I'm simply going to get 2x squared. When I divide 21x squared by 3x, I simply get 7x. And when I do the same thing here, 9x divided by 3x, I just get 3, and that still equals 0. From here, this middle part here is going to factor, so we want to factor this because it's a quadratic. So we're going to keep my outside term, 3x. But now what we're going to do here is we're going to look to see how this factors. So I'm going to do a times c. So a times c, which is going to be 2 times 3, which is 6. We're going to look for all the factors of 6, which is 1 and 6, 2 and 3. Because this is a positive number, we know that the signs here, the plus or minuses, have to be the same. If it was negative, that means the signs would have to be different. So I'm looking for a combination of these that are going to have the same sign that multiplies to give me positive 6 and adds to give me negative 7. Well, that is going to be negative 1 and negative 6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this middle term. So I'm going to have 2x squared. I'm going to do minus x, that's my 1, minus 1x. Then here I'm going to do plus a negative 6x, so the negative 6x plus 3 equals 0. So you can see here, if we combine like terms, we're right back to the same step, so it's still the same. So what we're going to do next is we're going to group the first two and the second two. So I'm going to keep my 3x on the outside. And I'm going to ask myself, in this first group, 2x squared and x, what do they have in common? They have an x in common, and that's going to leave me 2x minus 1. And this negative 6x plus 3, whenever you have this negative in front, factor the negative out. So we're going to do a negative, so here's my negative. And they have a 3 in common. So I'm factoring out a negative 3, and that's going to leave me with 2x minus 1. And that equals 0. So this middle term, if you remember, my GCFs are one of my factors, and these right here is my other factor. So I simply get 3x times x minus 3 and 2x minus 1 equals 0. Now we use the zero product property. We set each product, or each factor equal to 0. So we get 3x equals 0. In this case, x is going to equal 0. X minus 3 equals 0. And here, by simply adding 3 to both sides, we see that x equals 3. And then we have 2x minus 1 equals 0. By adding 1 and dividing by 2, we will see that x is 1/2. And those are your solutions. X equals is the solution set of 0, 1/2, and 3. Done. Not terribly bad. Just got to make sure you factor when you're solving these. If they don't factor, you have other options such as the quadratic formula or Dr. Lowe's method. Don't forget you can do the square root method as well.